So let's talk a little bit about evidence and a little bit about research. This is from PCC Librarian that I've used in the past, and it's a really thoughtful way to think about our different types of evidence because for this claims essay, we want to have a variety of evidence. And you want to think of it like Bruce Ballinger, who writes about writing, puts it, you want your car to be running on all cylinders, which means we want a nice balance of both kind of like anecdotal evidence and perhaps some softer evidence, some medium, and then some hard sources. So let's talk about what each of those things can look like and what kind of counts as evidence for this class and for this paper. So it's helpful to consider what kind of evidence is going to best help you to consider your claim. Four different kinds of evidence are listed below, along with some sources that often provide the kind of evidence and some strategies for finding them, which of course we all need help with. So what do you want to think about background information? Oftentimes this can be something that you're already familiar with, but other times you kind of need to build that background information in order to even start the deeper research process. So it depends on how familiar you are with your topic on what you need. You need to provide a clear definition of your concept, which we've talked about definition in Readers for Writers. You might want to look up history or kind of an overview of the topic, what's been said before, where would you want to jump in, identify some major thinkers, maybe there's some big names that you need to address, or even maybe shifts or understanding in events that you might have to look at. So there are sources for these, and these are basic information sources. We have things like online encyclopedia. Wikipedia is a great place to start. I know many teachers hate Wikipedia, but I think it's great to kind of jump in your learning. And we'll talk about that in another little video. Dictionaries are great. Summative reports are wonderful. So there's some different things that you can use. Obviously, encyclopedias are backgrounds, and the library will have access to these. QR Researcher is also great. PCC has access to that through their library as well. PSU does as well, and most universities do. So another type of evidence and statistic is going to be data. So data and statistics are going to be very basic. It's just going to be numbers, graphs, information. It might have like an abstract or a little summary at the end, but not much analysis. You do want to check kind of the bias and interpretation, perhaps who's funding it and who's behind this. And we're going to talk a little bit more about fact checking with lateral reading in another time. You also might look at sources like government agencies, reports like .gov, nonprofit organizations, professional organizations, or books from academic style publishers. So some search strategies for that is for Google, do cite:/gov, research or study or statistics. You can add that word into any of your topics and see what comes up. You can also look for just .org sites. So you would do cite:/org plus your topic. You can put quotation marks across your phrases. That forces you to kind of cluster your words, and you can look at those Google tips and tricks for more help on that. Or maybe identify or search a repository such as like the Pew Research Center, which is a great place to start and use kind of all of those techniques that you've been learning here. You can also look at kind of the table of contents of a book. It's really nice if it's an ebook as well, because you can just jump to the part that you need, or perhaps the index, which is in the back of the book. Then we have another type of evidence, and this is going to be part of your interview profile. So it's a firsthand account. You might have some firsthand accounts with your different topics, but this is also an idea to talk to someone who's been connected to your topic. It provides a lived experience within a community, personal stories or interpretations, maybe group experiences or witness descriptions. So you can find these as well in newspapers, blogs, interviews. I love kind of gleaning social media for it. I try to find a hashtag connected. So if I'm looking at something like vaccines, I might look at anti-vax like hashtags and see what's out there. And more hashtags will kind of follow you down this trail. But you can go to a site like Twitter, which you do not have to be a part of, and simply search a hashtag and see what people are saying. And those individual accounts are really, really interesting to pull into your research to really humanize your topic. You might look at diaries or memoirs if it is perhaps an historical topic, or even documentaries are a great way to kind of hear a voice of a time period or a topic. I also love TED Talks. We've watched some here, and I think they have great information. So please feel free to search that. Talking to different people that you know, maybe contacting a professional if you are at a work or you have other people, put feelers out there and see who might have some experience with this. You'd be surprised when you would ask how many people are affected by things that we're studying without ever realizing it. You can search Google News to explore people, YouTube, of course. TikTok would be a great firsthand account of what's happening, or even library searches. You can search Canopy or Films on Demand under our library databases. Another type of analysis is kind of the original research analysis. So these are typically professional journals, peer-reviewed journals as well is what we call them, and you can look at the video on peer-reviewed journals for that information. And what this is it takes research, it takes information, and then it synthesizes it and comes to a conclusion. It has very in-depth reasoning. Oftentimes these are long-term studies that have happened over a period of time, and they'll have an insight to a very small part of perhaps a larger issue or a larger line of inquiry. So these are in journalism books. Sometimes they're linked in news sources, like you might see it in the New York Times, like a new study came out that says, and then it links the study for you, and you can go and actually read the original resource, not just what the New York Times has to say about it. You can also look in academic books as well that you can find at the library. So you can also use Google Scholar. Google Scholar has it through PCC, and I will show you what that looks like, how to capture that without having to pay, of course, for any of that, because that's part of your tuition. Note that you will have a citation for that, and I'll show you how to pull that, and different articles and databases as well through our libraries. So EBSCO is a great one to start, and we're going to talk a bit more about that. So these, again, are the 4 different types of research, and it might be familiar to kind of think back to when we were studying argument and the ethos, pathos, logos. You have pathos, which is kind of that personal, that human connection. That's where those firsthand accounts are going to come in. Then you have kind of ethos, that credibility. Well, for those firsthand accounts have strong credibility because they are not just numbers and figures, but actual people. But ethos is also kind of the scientist or the PhDs who are studying that. So that brings a different kind of ethos. And then logos, really bringing them the facts and statistics or the logic of putting these things together. And so if you use these 4 different types of evidence as you are kind of gathering information, you will have that nice balance that will make for a very strong essay overall.